orthopedically impaired, they in special ed for the reading disability. SLD, specific learning disability for reading, specific learning disability for math, specific learning disability for writing, specific learning disability for speaking or listening. But guess what? I found out that most of our kids don't have a learning disability. They do have an LD, but it ain't learning. You know what the LD is in the ghetto? Lazy disability. Oh yeah. Your child does not need an IEP. Your child does not need special ed. They need a kick in the ass because they are unmotivated and they are unfocused. That's the problem in the black community. It is not the ability to learn. It's the desire to learn. Which is why if I was in charge, we wouldn't diagnose kids. We diagnose their damn parents. If I was in charge, we wouldn't diagnose children. We diagnose the homes they come from. And speaking of diagnosing the home they come from, I'm willing to bet that if I went into half the homes in this church right now, half of you, I'm willing to bet there's no dictionary in there. There's no thesaurus in there. I bet my life on it. I know what coons do. There's no dictionary in that house. There's no thesaurus in that house. There's no bookshelf in that house. And it's not a complete set of encyclopedia in that house. And you know what's so bad? Most of you getting ready to go out and go Christmas shopping. And I'm willing to bet a dictionary won't be on that list. A thesaurus won't be on that list. A complete set of encyclopedia won't be on that list. So let's look at this now. Most black men in prison in America read on the 4th grade level. Most black boys who get tested for special ed are sent during the 4th grade year. There's 2 million black people in prison, and there's 2 million black children in special ed. Oh yeah. The school to prison pipeline runs right through your damn house. When the last time you made the children turn off the cell phone, the video game, the television, the laptop, and read? In every one of your homes, there should be a quiet hour where everybody read, including you. But you know what I find so often when I go into black homes? There's nowhere in the house where you can get any quietude. There's a radio in every room, a TV in every room, somebody talking or smoking or doing something in every room. How can a child study, think, or read when you don't have a quiet space in that whole damn place? Oh yeah. You know what your house is? It's a slave breeding farm for the mass incarceration system. Slavery was outlawed in America in 1808. Slavery was outlawed in America in 1808. So can I ask you a question? Importation of slavery was outlawed in 1808. If the importation of new Africans to America was outlawed in 1808, where did they get all the new enslaved Africans from 1808 to 1865? Breeding farms. When they could no longer import us through the ship, they would literally create farms to breed Africans. They would get one buck or nigger, and we still call ourselves that to this day. And they'll get 10 black women or bitches, and we still call ourselves to that day. To this very day, we still use the words they use for us. And the buck's job was to keep the bitches pregnant. Oh yeah. In other words, your vagina was only useful as a weapon for the white power structure. And some of you right now, by how I see you raising your children, your vagina still ain't useful, except as a weapon for the white power structure. We are not raising our children the way we're supposed to be raising our children. They are lazy, they are sloppy, they are undisciplined. And what is the most important job of a black parent? The most important job of a black parent is to teach your child discipline. And what is Dr. Umar's definition of discipline? The ability to do what you need to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. Does your son have that? Does your daughter have that? You listening to me right now, and they should be here with you, by the way, but you left them home. You told them to clean them dishes. Will they be done when you get back? You told them to make sure the homework was done. Will it be done when you get back? You told them to vacuum the living room, clean up after your little brother and sister. How many of you can be certain that it's going to be done? Many of you cannot be, because you don't teach discipline. And that same lazy-ass black boy or girl, you're going to send to a college after they graduate. And you're going to go into student loan debt, financing an education for a child you know you never taught with any self-respect and discipline. What we going to do? Why send a black child to college if he barely got out of high school? That's right. If you know you ain't raising with no discipline, why are you going into debt? And if it was up to me, every black child in the hood would go to trade school first, not college. Okay, girls and boys, everybody. That's right. 2 years. That's right. Almost no student loans. But when you come out, you got the skills that can pay the bills. That's right. Electric, plumbing, HVAC. I can tell you what we paying for renovations. 2 weeks of work, $100,000. 1 week of work, $250,000. Those tradesmen make more money than surgeons, lawyers, and engineers. And they only went to school for 2 years, not 12. You better stick your son into one of these trade schools. If he want to go to college, he can do so when he's done. He'll be 2 years wiser, 2 years smarter, and 2 years richer. That's right. Whatever happened to the auto body shops in the high schools in Norfolk? That's right. Whatever happened to the welding program, the electric program, the plumbing program? 50 years ago, you could graduate from a high school in the black community and sit for your state board to be licensed as a plumber or an electrician. They took all that out in the 1970s in order to pave the way for mass incarceration. They took out the skills that pay the bills. It ain't no secret why we filling up the jails. Because they took away the factories and they took away the skills in the high school that prepared you to work. And then they dropped the crack off in 1980. So 1970, they deindustrialized the black man. In 1970, they made the black man economically irrelevant to the black woman. And then they sent the black feminists in, who brainwashed the black woman into thinking a black man was her problem. And some of you sisters still got that problem today. And then you got brothers who think the sisters is his problem, when it's the white man who manipulated all of this. Why did they give the black woman welfare programs in the 1970s? It ain't because they care about you or your children. They let the police kill them, so they damn sure don't care about them. Why did they give you WIC and free housing and free medical and food stamps? You know why? To make sure you would not have to go to the black man for anything. So when he started locking us up, you would not stand and fight with us. That was the purpose of welfare. And then in the 1980s, the CIA dropped off the crack, so black men who have now been economically devastated and are no longer relevant to their women, we either got to sell the crack to make money or smoke the crack to deal with the fact that we can no longer fulfill our obligations as a man. 1990, Bill Clinton crime bill. 3 strikes and you out. Mandatory minimum sentencing. Bill Clinton locked up more black men than any president in American history, and y'all called him the first black president. And then in the year 2000, George W. Bush hits us with another weapon of mass destruction known as the FBI, Faith-Based Initiative. They started funding black churches. And have you noticed ever since George Bush found a way to fund black churches, you can hardly find a black church that is fighting to help the black community in any one of those 5 areas that I just named. Can you name me a church in this country that's at the forefront of fighting for better schools? Can you name me a church in this country that's at the forefront of fighting against mass incarceration? Can you name me a church in the country that's at the forefront of fighting against gentrification or police genocide or economic empowerment? Where they at? They gone because the government pays them to sit on the sideline. That's right. You on your own now. That's right. And for the life of me, I don't understand why we still support some of these churches. Not this one. This is grassroots. You do have some churches who do the good thing, but most of them do not. That's right. Any religion that tells you you got to die to experience heaven when the white man got his right here, right now, is a church you don't need. The Chinese man got his right here, right now. The East Indian has heaven on earth. The Arab has heaven on earth. So any religion that tells me I got to die in order to experience heaven is a religion I don't need. I want my heaven here, and I want it now. Let me get back to this. So, if they got a disability, the education must be what? Free. And then the education must also be what? Appropriate. That is a word. That is a word that we fight over. Appropriate. Because the law doesn't define appropriate. Let me give you an example of what is not appropriate. Your son been in special ed 8 years, still can't read, he is not intellectually disabled, he goes to school, he does his homework, you participate in the IEP meetings, and he still can't read after being in special ed 5, 6, 7, 8 years. You're gonna argue what? That the IEP is not appropriate. Y'all see that? Your son gets speech and language therapy. Your son begins speech and language therapy since 3 years old, and he's still stuttering as if he never had speech and language therapy. You're gonna argue that the speech and language IEP is what? Not appropriate. Special ed kids must get a free education, and it must be an appropriate education. Now, here's the other big piece I want y'all to pay attention to. What is LRE? Least restrictive environment. Do you know what that means? That means no child in the United States of America can be in special ed class any longer than what is absolutely necessary in order to learn. Let me give you an example. If your son has a disability in reading, he should only be in special ed for what class? And if he got a disability for math, he should only be in special ed for what class? So can I ask you something? Some of y'all got kids with a math disability or a reading disability right here in the Hampton Roads, and they in special ed all day. If your son only got a reading disability, why is he in special ed for gym, art, class trip, bathroom, recess? You know what that's called? That's called full-time special ed. And guess what? It is almost impossible to defend a decision to put a child in special ed all day when all they have is one problem. Now, blind kids go to the blind school all day because they can't see in any class. So they need blind instruction for every subject. A deaf child is in special ed all day because they can't hear in no class. But if your child only has a reading problem, why is he not in the regular class for science? Why is he not in the regular class for social studies? Let me tell you why. You know why he's in special ed all day? Because the only reason why the white teacher wanted him in there in the first place is because he was a behavior problem, and she wanted him out the damn class, and you were stupid enough to sign that paper. That's right. You were stupid enough to sign that paper and let the white folks legally lynch your baby. And because she wanted him out the classroom, they put him in special ed all day. So if any of y'all got a child in special ed all day, you know what you need to be doing tomorrow? Monday? You need to be requesting an IEP meeting on paper. I'm requesting an IEP meeting to talk about my daughter's placement. The IEP team got 3 responsibilities. They must come up with the learning program that your child is supposed to receive in special ed program. An IEP is the disabled curriculum for the disabled child in the disabled skill area. Let me say it again. An IEP is the disabled curriculum for the disabled child in the disabled area. If your child got autism, they got an autism